Even if you got $50 on you, 50 becomes 100 all of a sudden. It's like, yeah, found money. Let's do this.
Hello.
Oh, look at this. I'm looking for the one and only, the legendary Joe Bartnick.
Hey, what's up, Mike? How you doing?
Hey, Joey boy, welcome to rawmickrichards.com. My God, we have missed you. So awesome. Tell me that you got some beautiful weather in the California mountains. You're doing a little, what do you do? Are you having I assume you're having a drink? What's happening for you?
I'm going to start early because I can't go to the gym because it's actually raining today.
No.
Oh, boy.
It never rains in Southern California.
It never rains. That's why I left all my stuff outside.
Hey, my friend, we've got some hockey to talk about all of a sudden. We're getting ready. But let me ask you this before we get to some of the details. We know that you're a Pittsburgh fan, but for the NHL period, this early stage of the face-off rule, the slashing rule, let's start with the face-off one. Are you getting this at all? Are you understanding any of this?
I have no idea what's going on with the face-off rule. They might as well just make it like old rod hockey and just have it pop up from the middle of the ground. You know, have it go woo
Exactly.
from the ice. I mean, it's totally ridiculous. I mean, they're giving linesmen way too much power. Just have them make icing calls correctly when they have to go to the videotape every 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, and the other thing, too, is dicking around when it is in the face-off area, which has been going on for a long time, and seemingly it's been getting worse. But I kind of put that on the, drop the puck, let's go. And then guys wouldn't sit there and dance, but I don't think it's penalty worthy. I don't see where the benefit for the game is that.
No, it's all fun and dandy when you're playing in China. But what happens when it's like in the middle of February in a national televised game, and then it's Washington versus Pittsburgh, and all of a sudden there's a 5-on-3 because Jake Getzel is late getting it into the circle and makes a move after he's the second guy in on a face-off with Nick Backstrom. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Good to talk to you, Joe, as always.
Hey, Dave.
So my perception of this whole rule, and by the way, speaking of that game in China, I know you're watching, Joe, but just in case anybody is listening to us right now, watching us right now, Canucks have the 4-2 lead on the Kings in the midway point of that third period. So there you go. In-game analysis.
Wow.
If you're not watching it, they're going to re-show it every 3 minutes on the NHL Network until Friday.
That's exactly it. You get the sense, though, where, and we see this with a lot of sports, you have the preseason games, you clamp down on stuff, but you know what? On October 4th, when opening night is out there, things are going to change, and this face-off rule isn't going to be as hard-assed called as it is right now.
Probably. I think at least by American Thanksgiving they're going to give up on it. But I actually think the slashing is more disturbing because they're just taking a whole way of life out of the game for no reason. I mean, Sidney Crosby gets maimed, the best player in the game, in headshots. Well, they're just a part of the game. Mark Mathot, a ham and egger, gets his pinky broke, and all of a sudden the world has to change.
I knew you were going to bring that up. Like I should have taken a total on the over-under on that one because I knew that was coming up at some point. So, all right, let's talk about the beloved Penguins. What a great story they were last year. And depleted. The way that they did it on the back end to me was extraordinary. But I think people who still refuse to buy into really the greatness of a Sidney Crosby, I think is I always find it weird when you find extreme hatred about that. Now, look, if I'm talking to a Flyers fan, I understand. I understand where the hatred comes from. But when you're taking a look at this team this year, Joe, and you're looking at the Penguins as we get started, what do you think the thought and the philosophy is? Because I'll be honest, when you win a cup and have to play that much hockey and lose the man time that they did, it's really tough to come back the following year.
They say that, but I never thought they could repeat. So they can possibly three-peat. It really comes down to there's not going to be any Olympics this year. There's no World Cup. They should be a little bit more rested. I know there's a lot of openings in the schedule this year. There's like 3 days off, 4 days off. So maybe the big boys can get some rest. I think it's possible.
So, Joe, what kind of teams are you looking for this year as far as being the contenders? We know the Pittsburghs are going to be there and so forth, but what other teams do you have competing right now? I know we're still a couple weeks away from the whole thing actually starting, but who do you like, and who had a nice off season that tempts you to say, yeah, watch out for them?
Well, I think it's crazy to pick a team that didn't make the playoffs to all of a sudden be the Eastern Conference champs, but I'm going to do it. I like what Tampa Bay did.
I knew you'd say that. Yeah.
Getting Steven Stamkos. If Steven Stamkos comes back at 85%, they have the two superstar models with him and Kucherov, who I just think Kucherov just made a huge step last year and was just flat out amazing. And Hedman. I mean, if Carlson wasn't Jesus, I mean, Hedman could have won the Norris last year. Hedman was amazing.
No, he was. And when you look at Tampa Bay, because I have them to win the Atlantic, are the Maple Leafs the second best team in that division?
I believe so, although I still think they're a defenseman away from a Stanley Cup run. Mm-hmm. But I absolutely think they're the second best team in the Atlantic.
Well, of the young, it's funny, we played a clip yesterday of Wayne Gretzky talking about the possibility at some point of an Oilers-Leafs Stanley Cup, which, a bunch of years ago would have seemed, just absurd. But I don't think it's that crazy, but it's definitely not going to be this year. There are some teams that obviously slipped. Where do you think, for instance, in what the Kings have gone through and maybe getting rid of Darryl wasn't the thing to do, but where do you think the Kings are going to fall this year?
I think they're going to be very mediocre. And I'll tell you, last year Jeff Carter saved their season. They would have been closer to Colorado than the playoff spot last year if it wasn't for Jeff Carter. And then you look up and you see on their top line now with Kopitar, who had a terrible year,
yeah.
There's going to be Mike Camilleri. So, everything is solved. That was ridiculous. Going out and getting Camilleri and getting nobody else was an insult to everyone who loves the Kings.
Yeah, but you know what? Let me disagree with you for a second. That was a cheap contract, though. If you're the Kings and Mike Camilleri basically wants to play for LA and it's at a really good reduced price, why don't you bring him in?
Well, you could bring him in to play on the third line, but Kopitar needs someone that that didn't play in the 1980s.
Right. Somebody taller than 5'5".
Yeah, I just think that they needed scoring. Scoring was so down, and they need someone that can score quickly on the rush. And I know Camilleri, the league is all about speed right now, and the Kings are so slow. They're so slow. I mean, even Gabrick, he's old. He has rust on those wheels.
No, he is.
And Kopitar is slow. How are they going to score on the rush? They're going to grind people to a halt. The game's different nowadays. It's a different game.
Let me throw something out at you, and I don't think this is anything new that you've heard, Joe. If Drew Doughty doesn't sign with the Los Angeles Kings, and if they don't like what they're basically doing in Los Angeles, could Drew Doughty be that one piece the Maple Leafs could parlay themselves into that group, that upper echelon? Because I think it makes a lot of sense considering where that guy is from.
Well, I mean, if Toronto gets Drew Doughty, obviously they're right back. They're right in the Stanley Cup Finals because then he can eat up 30 minutes of ice time that otherwise would be going to Riley and stuff like that. So or guys that have underachieved for the last 3 years. So I mean, but Doughty needs to step up his play. He was part of the problem last year. I don't know if he was overextended or I don't know. I did not like his game last year either.
You also brought up something too, Joe, that up here in Canada, I mean, the Olympic tournament is massive, like countrywide. It's sort of, the only comparison I could make is either a Super Bowl or NCAA March Madness. Like it really does gobble up all the attention. South of the border, would an Olympic hockey tournament what does that mean? Where does that show up on the radar for the sports fan?
That's a great question because a lot of people like myself thinks the main part of the Olympics it just disrupts the NHL season, mm-hmm. which is why even though I'm going to the Olympics, I'm happy that the pros aren't because I love the NHL that much. What it really does in the United States is everyone who likes to dump on hockey because it's easy, because it's white guys, so you can be politically correct and think you're edgy by dumping on the NHL. It's like, well, you see, if they played hockey that way, we'd watch it more. And the bottom line is they don't. Everyone watches it to wave their American flag for 2 games, and then America does something stupid like have Tortorella as the coach, and then they lose, and then everyone's back to just not paying attention to hockey that doesn't want to.
You're going to Korea? You're going to South Korea?
Yes. I'm going to South Korea. I mean, if it still exists in February.
I was going to say, why? Is there a reason that's a thing for you? I don't know a lot of people who do that. You got a gig?
I really wanted to see Olympic hockey, and it just so happens I picked the year that the pros aren't going. But I already got my plane ticket. In all honesty, I'm so much happier that the pros aren't going because, I've been to All-Star games. I love the World Cup. But this way I can actually cheer for America. Because if the pros were going, I'd be like, oh, please don't hurt Crosby, don't hurt Malkin. Yeah. I kind of, there's a bunch of different countries I would want to see win. Now this way I can say, let's go Bugsy Malone.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, Switzerland might win the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Man, it's not going to be a tough ticket to get, Joe. You know what I mean? That's you can go to a lot of hockey when you're there. Let me ask you this: NHL wise, entering the season, we know the stars of the game. We know the teams that most people think are going to be there. As far as the rookie class, the rookie crop, what are some of the new players you're looking at, and guys that are not only looking for a Calder Trophy, but looking to impress in their first season?
I thought Nico Hischier looked pretty great for the New Jersey Devils. He's getting a lot of ice time too now with the
nice goal the other
tragedy.
Day too, yeah.
And Zajac not being Zajak's out for 2 to 4 months. I mean, I think the Devils are just when you think something's going good for the Devils for a second, they just fall back. As far as Calder Cup, I maybe think outside the box. I think Charlie McAvoy from Boston has a real chance.
That's not bad. Yeah. Well, he's one of those defensemen that probably going to play some significant minutes, considering that we just heard about an hour ago Torrey Krug is out for the next 3 weeks with a displaced jaw. So you take away that guy from the Bruins defense, and guess what? Everybody moves up. The minutes extend.
Yeah, he's going to get some power play time. He's in a big media market, and I just think he has a real chance to. He really impressed me in the playoffs last year. Coming in, he just basically put down his algebra book and came in and played in the NHL playoffs. And he didn't look out of place. I think he's going to get some big minutes. He's going to get some power play time. Well, I didn't hear about Torrey Krug because I actually like Boston in the third hole in the Atlantic. I think they're going to have a little bit of not so much a bounce back year, but I think they're going to have a pretty good year.
Why aren't they going after Jarome Iginla, considering he's moved into the area?
There's just crazy questions about him and Jágr, in my opinion. It's like they're just passing by. People's like, oh, the game is faster now. Who can't use Iginla on the fourth line? I can see Jágr not being a fourth liner, but I would take a flyer on Iginla, but I would never give him a PTO. That would be so insulting. I would rip up a PTO on television like Sinead O'Connor if I was.
Yeah, I'd like to see that happen too. I think it would be really great. Absolutely. Hey, Joe, thanks so much for joining us here this morning. A real pleasure. I know you're getting up early with us today, but it's been a while. And what about touring wise? Are you where are you working these days? What's happening for you?
Right now, I'm in LA this weekend, and I'm hitting New York City next week, and then I'll be in Vegas the next weekend, and I'll be back in New York, and then I got dates in San Francisco coming up, and Florida. I'll be down in Florida. I'm all over the place. I forgot my schedule on my own show yesterday. Couldn't recall it.
Well, that's awesome.
JoeBartnick.com. I think my wife updated it. I'm not quite sure. She's not talking to me.
Oh, hey, join that party. That's a big club, I'll tell you, my friend.
It doesn't matter anymore because hockey season's starting, so I don't want to talk to her.
Hey, Joey, you take care. We'll talk to you again real soon. You be safe.
Oh, thank you guys so much. You guys are the best.
That is Joe Bartnick joining us here. His podcast, also called Puck Off. And yet another man who has a wife that doesn't talk to him.
That's
What? Did we just become best friends?
Yep.